All right, it looks like it is 10 o'clock Central Time where I'm located in Dallas, Texas. My name is Julie Bates, and I'm the Donor Relations Manager for the International Elephant Foundation. I'd like to welcome everybody today to our first conservation chat of 2024. We have a great program lined up for you. We do have a couple of other members from IEF on the call. We have Deborah Olson, who's our executive director on the call, myself, and also Sarah Conley, who's our conservation coordinator. I'm going to turn it over to her in just a second. But before I do, I would just like to go over a couple housekeeping items. As we go through the presentation and when the presenter starts, we'd ask if you would turn your cameras off and mute yourself. We like to have the cameras off to save bandwidth. We have people who are tuning in from all over the world. Also, we are recording this session, so that way people who weren't able to join us live will be able to get a recorded version of the presentation. And you all who are on the call will also get a copy or a link to the recorded call. So again, welcome everybody. Great to see everyone. And I am going to now turn it over to Sarah Conley, who is our conservation coordinator, and she's going to tell you a little bit about what's going to happen today.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Julie, and good evening or afternoon, wherever you are. We are so happy to have you. IEF is very lucky to have today's speaker with us. We have Mr. Laxmi Raj Joshi joining us today, and he holds a master's degree in biodiversity conservation and plant systematics from Tribhuvan University in Nepal. He has over a decade of experience in conservation program planning and implementation in Nepal, and he joined the National Trust for Nature Conservation in 2016 as a conservation officer and took on a key role in wildlife conservation, community engagement, and research, monitoring in the southwestern landscape in Nepal under different capacities. He's a certified trainer of human-wildlife coexistence, which we'll hear a lot more about today. He designed and guided several community awareness campaigns on wildlife conservation, implemented alternative livelihood support programs for human-wildlife affected communities, and more. He's successfully designed and managed nearly half a dozen small to medium-sized projects on Asian elephant conservation. And upon his guidance, a group of youths are actively engaged in maintaining human-elephant coexistence in Western Nepal. And for his work, he's also received a conservation grant from IEF. So we are very excited to share this great work with you and learn. So if you have any questions, make sure you throw them in the chat, because after he's done giving his talk, we will open it up and talk all things elephant and human-elephant coexistence. So welcome, Laxmi. I hope you're having a great evening where you are. So I'm going to turn it over to you to share your screen and share your knowledge.
Thank you very much, Sarah, for nicely introducing me. So hi, everyone. So I'm Laxmi Raj Joshi. So currently working with the National Trust for Nature Conservation, Nepal, as a conservation officer. So now I am in Chitwan National Park, which is in central Nepal, and it is about 10 p.m. here in Nepal. But I currently work in Suklapata National Park, which is in the western Nepal, where so I have just worked with one of the IEF supported project in Asian elephants. With this, I would like to share my screen. So wait a minute.
Perfect. We can see it.
So can you see?
Yes.
Okay, that's fine.
You may want to go there. There it is. Perfect.
Well, so in tonight's session, so I'll be basically talking about conflict to coexistence. So it is all about the conserving elephants in a fragmented landscape of Western Nepal. So talking about Western landscape, so I will be dealing with the far Western Nepal. So according to the political map of Nepal, it is in far southwest of Nepal, where we have a meta population of elephants. So about 50 to 60 elephants. They usually migrate the protected areas and forest areas of Nepal and India. So they basically have a kind of transboundary movement. So this is I mean a current status of elephants in Nepal. So we have about 200 estimated individuals of Asian elephants uh, living in 6 isolated habitats of Nepal from east to west. So elephants in Nepal are basically found in the southern plains, we also called Tarai region of Nepal. So besides these southern plains, elephants also frequently move in Siwalik hills, uh, so which are connected to the middle mountain ecosystems of Nepal through the Tarai. So the current estimate is about 203 to 227 individuals living these isolated landscapes. So among these, the Banke Bardia complex, which is in midwestern part of Nepal, has the highest elephant populations, followed by the Chitwan Parsa landscape. So Chitwan Parsa landscape is basically in the central part of Nepal, and the Suklapata landscape, which I will be dealing with. So it is in the far western Nepal. So now we have about 12,000 square kilometers of habitats available for elephants. So before a decade, it was more than 20%, because within I mean this 50-100 years, we have lost a huge area of a huge habitat for elephants and the other wildlife. Otherwise, there was a continuous form of forest from east to west in Nepal throughout the southern landscape, not only in Nepal, throughout the Indo-Gangetic plains, which basically represent the northern part of India and the southern part of Nepal. It had a continuous form of forest, and mega herbivores like elephants, rhinoceros, and important ungulates, they used to live in this landscape. But all of these wild animals are now living in the fragmented habitats within this landscape. So before 2000, the status of elephant in Nepal was very worst. So we lost a huge area of forest, and I mean a huge number of elephants were killed. With the continuous efforts of government of Nepal and supports available from different donor agencies, we were able to revive the population. And after 2000, so there is a continuous increasing trend of elephants in Nepal. Among various issues that are leading to to decline of elephant population in Nepal, issues related to habitat loss and fragmentation, and of course the human-elephant conflict, and the impact of large linear infrastructures are the major ones. So we have been trying to grab the pace of development and our highways. The people are trying to expand these highways in 4 lanes, 6 lanes, or let's say in the near future there will be some more bigger structures. And we are also trying to build some railway lines. Then we have these power supplies, electric power supply lines, and we have a good network of irrigation canals. So all of these systems, they are contributing to the fragmentation of available habitat for elephants. And in recent years, there have been also debates on like building some of the mega projects, like let's say for example the airports and other infrastructures within this habitat. And basically, I already told you that our elephant population is basically surviving in a transboundary landscape. So elephants used to come to Nepal and then go to India, and I mean vice versa. So within the course of their movement, so there are certain areas which are badly fragmented, and in that areas, the elephants are facing trouble in their survival. And our populations, they are very small and isolated, 50 60 individuals, or let's say 8 10 individuals. So this is not a population, it's a kind of a very small one. It is not viable. So unless it's a viable population, we cannot say that it's a sustainable population. So in the near future, so we cannot guarantee that this population will be sustained and will go in long run. So our elephant movement corridors. So although we have a number of corridors, particularly talking about the Western Nepal. Western Nepal is very familiar, um, it has a number of these movement corridors for animals. But nowadays, in recent years, some of these corridors are badly fragmented, and it's very hard for the elephants and other large mammals to migrate utilizing these corridors. Human-wildlife conflict is one of the pressing conservation issues in Nepal. So annually, 10 to 12 people, they lose their lives in elephant attack. Elephant attack, and about 2 to 3 elephants, they are being killed in retaliation in Nepal. So there is a increasing trend of human-wildlife conflict, talking about last decade, but in recent years, let's say 2 to 3 years, there are some declines also seen, but compared to the recent decades and recent years, so we can say that human elephant conflict is in a continuous form of continuous increasing form. So talking about the elephants in the Western landscape where I am working, so we have about 50 to 60 migratory individuals, which usually migrate in between the Nepalese and Indian protected areas. So one of them is the Suklaphata National Park. Suklaphata National Park is connected with the Dudhwa Tiger Reserve of India and the Pilibhit Tiger Reserve of India. In between, there are a number of biological corridors. So elephants utilize these biological corridors to move around and utilize the resources available in both the countries. Okay, so on the course, they utilize these highways, utilize the croplands, and even settlements, and during the time they invite conflict with the communities. So these kind of losses are rampant there. For example, they are responsible for damaging these infrastructures, which are actually built to minimize conflict with a number of ungulates and herbivores. So it's a huge investment considering to our situation, because our economy is not that good. So our per capita income, for example, if you talk about the landscape where I am working, the per capita income is about $300 now. So that's not good compared to other regions and other countries. So in this situation, so we have invested on these kind of structures. A huge investment is there, but the free ranging elephants, they are responsible for damaging all these structures, and it is very hard for us to revive these. Even though elephant it just walk in a in a cropland, it's a damage. It doesn't have to eat, it has just to walk, and it damages everything there. And for a smallholder farmer who has not that good income, or not other sources of income, so it's very hard for them to feed their families if this kind of losses are there. And damage of properties, for example, these mud houses made from thatch grass even. So these kind of houses are damaged by the elephants, and it is kind of creating negative sentiment among the local communities towards the elephants. So the conflict is not just putting pressure in human side. So elephants are also being killed in retaliation. For example, this elephant, it was killed in electrocution few years back. And there are also records of elephants being killed in snares. For example, a snare set for, let's say, for wild boar, it is responsible to kill even this giant, elephant. So this is a kind of major problem. In the knowingly or unknowingly, elephants are being killed in every year. For example, this last photograph here, you see one elephant. It was killed in a I mean septic tank of a toilet. So it was a kind of unknowing accident. But these kind of situations are, these are creating pressure in a very, very small and isolated elephant population of Western Nepal. So that's why the conflict is putting pressure both on human side and elephant side, in which we have to work. So to minimize the conflict and to maintain a coexistence is our major goal. And with the International Elephant Foundation and other donor agencies, we have been working to maintain coexistence since many years. So different kind of support systems are available there. For example, we are working with some of the mitigation measures. For example, we have established a network of solar fencing system. So it is, it is working quite well in some areas, but in other areas it's not working well. So we have other structures. For example, we have been supporting the communities to build some watchtowers and establish some early warning systems. Actually, these systems make a typical sound, and the communities can be warned on the potential movement of the elephants and the potential damage these elephants may cause. We are also working to develop the capacity of the frontline staff, frontline park and forest staff, even the security staff, to deal with the emergency situations created by the elephants. And we are also creating a network of local communities. For example, the community-based anti-poaching unit, it is also called CBAPU, is very famous in familiar in Nepal. So local men and women, they voluntarily, contribute for elephant and other wildlife conservation through CBAPU network. And for elephants, we have also, developed a specialized kind of network. It's called ERT. ERT means Elephant Response Team. So we have formed these kind of networks and mobilized them in conflict mitigation. So we have also provided some of the logistic supports that help safely seize potential problem causing animals that may be in group or a single bull elephant or a must elephant. And we are also supporting the authorities to make science-based decisions. Basically, we are like utilizing the best available technology. For example, radio collars, satellite GPS collars, to continuously monitor the potential problem causing elephants and helping communities to minimize the conflict. We are also working on establishing some of the quick relief funds. So in case of any emergencies, in case of any damage, any loss of life, so we can easily reach to the needy household and provide them quick relief. So we are also supporting some alternative forms of livelihoods to the communities. Doing all this efforts. So conservation education and extension is a continuous support provided to the communities. It's a continuous form of engagement for the communities. So it's a never-ending process. And we have also developed a specialized kind of awareness generation campaign. It's called Behavior Change Campaign, and it is very familiar with the local men and women in Western landscape. I will show you some of the examples how we are working on this. So going to the specific project that has been supported by International Elephant Foundation in Western Nepal, is called Community Resilience for Elephant Conservation in Western Nepal. So we implemented this project within the period of January to December 2023. So, and I was very fortunate to receive this support from International Elephant Foundation. And I think we have done quite a good work to sustain our elephant population in the Western landscape. The overall goal of the project was to ensure sustainability of the growing subpopulation of Asian elephant or the metapopulation of Asian elephant in forestern Nepal in harmony with the local community. So specifically, our goals were to identify and to map the elephant movement corridors and conflict hotspots, and also conduct a community survey to identify the root causes of conflict and its outcome. And we were also we had also a goal to sensitize local government agencies to make their engagement more rigorous and more, specific on elephant conservation. We also had a goal to unite local men and women through elephant response teams and mobilize them in safely chasing elephants, in the meantime generating a huge community awareness on elephant conservation. So this is what we have done in last year. So this is a map of Suklaphata National Park and the surrounding landscape. Here we have shown how our elephants are migrating in Nepalese and Indian protected areas and forest areas through the biological corridors. So the green one, the green area here you see is the Suklaphata National Park. It is one of the source population of Asian elephants in western landscape. These lines here you see, these represent the elephant movement corridors, and the red spots here you see. So this is a kind of fragmentation within the elephant habitat. So here I wanted to show you that, okay, elephants are moving throughout these elephant corridors, and they are just utilizing the habitats available in Nepal and India. But nowadays, in recent years, there's a kind of continuous form of fragmentation in some areas. So this fragmentation is causing the conflict with the communities, because elephants are unable to utilize these corridors, means elephants are trying to find new areas. So new areas are near the settlements, in the croplands, and while the elephants move in the settlements and the croplands, so it definitely causes trouble between community and elephants. And in this way, conflict is in the form of continuous rise in this landscape. Okay, so this is another survey we conducted. So this is about where our elephants are currently based, and what kind of areas they utilize. So basically they utilize the core area of the forest, the core area of the park, and they also utilize the corridor areas corridor continuously. This cluster you see, the cluster of animals, this means that a group of elephants are utilizing the best available resources in the forest area and in the national park area. And a single elephant means a single bull elephant, or let's say a must elephant, or may not be a bull or a must elephant. It is utilizing a certain area in certain period of time. So doing this mapping, what we have realized that, okay, most of these elephants mostly utilize our landscape for 3 to 4 months, a group of elephants. Otherwise there are 10 to 12 resident elephants are always there, but this a bigger group, 50 to 60 elephants, they stay in our landscape for about 3 to 4 months, and they go to nearby Indian protected areas or forest areas, and they again come back to find suitable resources, suitable habitat for their annual activity. Okay, so these are the areas of the conflict. These kind of this is the core area of the park, where the Suklaphata National Park is written here. So this blank structure is the core area of the park. So out of this core area is the buffer zone. So this is the buffer zone area of Suklaphata National Park. So wherever you go in the buffer zone area, you will find the conflict. Each and every household living in the fringe area of the park, they are getting conflict with the elephant because they are residing just in the immediate periphery of the national park. There is not a kind of realistic buffer, although we say buffer zone. So buffer zone means there should be some buffer which engage elephants which want to go to the community area. Okay, so that's why we don't have the real buffer. That's why communities are facing these kind of conflicts. And here in another map, you will see these the hotspots of the conflict. So the more reddish structures area means it's a real hotspot, and the areas where there is not a good buffer is receiving more conflict compared to the areas which has a good buffer. So this is our finding. And we also conducted a kind of social survey engaging 220 households living in the fringe area of the forest. And we have found that the agriculture was the main occupation for the communities living in the buffer area. Among the surveyed households, about 44% of the households those were suffered from crop damage, and about 3% were suffered from property damage. So every year, 1 to 2 local residents are being killed by elephants, and about let's say about a couple of years, one elephant is being killed in retaliation. So although even though this kind of conflict is there, even though people are suffering, about 35% of the surveyed households, they preferred elephant conservation and elephant in their areas, whereas about 37% had negative perception on elephant conservation, and the rest of the households were neutral about elephant conservation. It means even though you are getting conflict, you are positive you have positive attitude in elephant conservation, and this is a good sign for all of us working for the working for the betterment of elephant conservation in western landscape. So this is a figure where you will see that although there is not a continuous trend, but there is some form of increasing conflict in our areas. So within the period of 6 years, we have about more than 800 cases of human-elephant conflict. And among these, so most of the conflicts were related with crop damage, followed by property damage, human harassment, and livestock depredation. There's a single case of livestock depredation, which was identified as the cause of elephant. Otherwise, crop damage is the major form of human-elephant conflict in Western landscape. So elephants are not always, inviting trouble for human settlements. So it is only the season of crop harvesting and plantation season in which human-elephant conflict is pronounced. Otherwise, in other seasons, there is not a kind of pronounced conflicting situation. And not all the households living in the buffer zone area are suffered from conflict. Only the households who live, about a distance of about 500 meters, within the distance of 500 meters, they are getting that kind of conflict. That's why it is more or less clear that if a certain household is living in a immediate periphery of the national park or immediate periphery of the forest or corridor, it is more or less certain that household should get the conflict with the elephant. So to minimize the conflict and to establish the coexistence, we have worked on various conflict mitigation measures. So our team also tried to to find the usefulness of all these systems which were established to minimize the conflict and to maintain the coexistence. So I will give you some examples. Now, for example, this early warning system. So we have developed a network of early warning system, and we found that so most of these systems are an excellent source of conflict mitigation, but there requires a continuous form of maintenance, and it is always a risk that these kind of systems may be habitual to elephants and will not work in long run. Solar fencing, we have also a good network of solar fencing. Solar fencing is found a excellent source of conflict mitigation, but this system requires a regular form of maintenance, and a great form of community ownership is required there. Unless the community is ready to take the ownership, so these kind of systems will never work. So these are some of the these solar fencing systems in which we have worked. there is a current fashion of designing these kind of concrete fence or concrete walls to minimize the conflict. So these are the excellent sources that you know that minimize the conflict with elephants. But these kind of systems actually requires a huge investment. So this is basically beyond the capacity of our authorities and the communities. That's why we don't really prefer these kind of systems in our areas. Watchtowers are also a form of conflict mitigation. So these are a fair source of conflict mitigation. These also require continuous maintenance and ownership of the communities, but this is rarely available. So that's why it is very hard to say that this is really working for conflict mitigation. But in certain areas, it is definitely working, but not considering the entire landscape. So we are also basically developing our own elephant scaring devices, which are less harmful for the elephants and which are easy to operate. So we are providing these kind of devices to the communities and helping communities to stray away in potential conflicting situations. For now, these are the useful, sources of conflict mitigation, but we cannot guarantee that these will work for long run, because there is always a chance of elephants being familiar with these kind of systems or devices. So we are providing these kind of high focus torchlights, especially useful in the night time to chase the elephants safely in the forest areas. So besides these high focus torchlights, people are also utilizing electric wires to operate large balls or some kind of instruments. So while making use of these electric wires, there should be care should be there. Otherwise, it will generate some kind of current and may have deteriorating impact in elephant and the other wildlife. So these I already told you about the community-based anti-poaching unit and elephant response team. So we have been engaging local men and women in minimizing conflict through these networks, and this is actually working very well, because it is very good to to engage the communities in conflict mitigation. But these kind of systems require continuous engagement for a voluntary network. That's why we have to provide them regular logistic and other supports to safely chase the elephants. We have been also providing alternative livelihood supports in various forms. For example, unpalatable crops, some high value crops which are not palatable to elephant and the other wildlife. But these kind of supports should also be identified properly. These are site specific, these are case specific, and a good market linkage should be there. That's why specific care should be taken in on providing these kind of supports to the communities. So this is a question actually people ask to us and every people who is working on elephant conservation. So we have been working on different structures, different conflict mitigation measures, but none of them are working very well, considering all the conflicting areas. So this is a question from the community, from the authorities, that is there an universal solution for conflict mitigation? I will say no. No, there is not a universal solution of conflict mitigation. But if you try to work on these systems in harmony, a mix, if you try for a mixed approach, that will work. For example, this is a kind of recent intervention we have made in one of the areas in our in the buffer zone of Suklaphata National Park. Here we have multiple barrier for elephants. For example, you have a mesh wire fence here, then you have electric fence here, then you have a buffer of about 50 meters where we have planted unpalatable crops, then you have another mesh wire fence, and we are also trying for bee harvesting there, and planting some of the crops which are not palatable to elephants. So in this way, this system is really working there. So it is already 1 year after establishment of this system, and I am very happy to share that this is not damaged by the elephants anymore, and people are living in harmony with the elephants. And there in this area, we have also developed a community network, or elephant response network team, and which is also supporting communities, providing this kind information on elephant potential conflict with the elephant, and ways to get safe from the elephants, and in emergencies they are providing this kind of system. So our approach is working on this kind of uh, multiple solutions, and also developing the capacity of local communities to deal with the emergencies, to make aware to the larger section of the communities. So if we can create this kind of system, so this will definitely help in minimizing the conflict. So we have also engaged about 60 local authorities who work in the local municipalities, and we were able to to share the major finding of our elephant habitat survey, and this community survey, and we get a good kind of commitment from these authorities that they will certainly have some resources to minimize the conflict and to maintain the coexistence, and they will make their plan in a way that they will help the communities to live in harmony with the elephants. So we actually formed 4 elephant network teams. About 49 youths are there. We have been continuously working to safely seize the elephant and save the life and property of the communities. We provided them a training package in which we taught the basics of elephant conservation, the causes of conflict, the ways to maintain the coexistence, and in return they conducted a number of community workshops or training packages, and helped communities to live in harmony with the elephants. We provided them some basic logistics, for example, high focus torchlights, raincoats, field bags, elephant scaling devices, and other devices. So it's a kind of motivation for them as well. So we help them for their regular monthly meetings, and sharing the conflicting, the cases with the authorities. And we also provided them some communication supports, and supports from light snacks during this elephant chasing operations. So this is a glimpse of logistics support provided to the ERT members. So one of the major contributions they have made, that they have identified some of these potential problem causing elephants, bull elephants, musk elephant, ranging throughout the landscape, and they can identify these individuals. And whenever there are situations like this, whenever the elephants are entering to the croplands or farmlands, or let's say in the communities, so they immediately provide the response. They support the communities to immediately stray away them into the back to the forest area, and minimize loss and damage for the communities. And we have also a kind of a very specific program on generating conservation awareness. It's called Behavior Change Campaign for Conservation. So through this network, so we have been trying to reach to the remote areas of the communities, to the most needy part of the communities. We have been conducting this site-specific, mobile conservation campaigns, and helping communities to understand the behavior and biology of the animals, and ways to get safe from such animals. So this is really working very well. So we have also created these kind of groups, for example, a Facebook Messenger chat group where they can share their stories. They can share about the dangers of potential free ranging animals, and they can ask for the support to the community, to the authorities. So this is also working really very well. These ERT members, they have conducted a number of mobile conservation campaigns in the communities. These are some of the glimpses where they actually go to those areas in which elephants used to move freely, and provide this kind of information to the community members. Okay, so we have also developed some of the mass awareness generation materials, for example, these posters and hoarding boards, and provided to the communities and helped minimize the conflict. So we have been continuously receiving support from Government of Nepal, the Suklaphara National Park, Divisional Forest Office of Kanchanpur, and NTNC, of course, and the US Fish and Wildlife Service, besides International Elephant Foundations. So once again, I would like to thank International Elephant Foundations for its support to develop the project and implement the project in the western landscape of Nepal and help survive our growing but very small uh, population of elephants in Nepal. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you so much. That was excellent. And we have so many questions in the chat. You gave people a lot of great things to think about. So we'll just kind of go in order and I'll try to categorize them a little bit. So we had some questions about the solar fencing, and you were talking about how it won't work in some areas, but it will work in others. Can you talk a little bit about why? How come some areas it's more effective than others? You are muted.
Okay.
There you go.
So the story of solar fence is that, okay, solar fence is actually a good source of conflict mitigation. So if it is well operated, because it requires, for example, if the wire of that fencing system, it gets, if it touches with the green grass, for example, if touches the grass, so there will be leakage of current. So the current will not flow properly. So if the batteries, it ultimately operates with the batteries. If the batteries, if you do not feed with the this what to say distilled water to the batteries, so the batteries will no work. So if there is a certain damage from elephant or any of elephant or from any other animals, if you do not immediately maintain the system, it will not work. So a small kind of breakage will destroy whole the system and it will not function well. That's why you have to continuously maintain the system to make it more useful. If you do that, it will work. We have a very good example of very functional electric fence in western landscape. So if you don't, it will not work. So that's very simple, very straightforward.
That makes perfect sense. So we do have another question about fencing. Have you had experience with beehive fencing in your area? Have you found them to be effective? Are the bees in Nepal aggressive enough to deter elephants like they are in regions of Africa?
So actually, we are now working as a pilot project. So we have been recently, doing these kind of things, but we don't have a proper kind of bee fence here in Nepal. So that's why I don't have that kind of proper idea on this. But I have heard that where there are beehives, small, I mean hives. So elephant rarely, approach the area because it creates that kind of irritational sound for the elephant, and it will certainly help to minimize some form of conflict. But we don't have that kind of properly, functioning, well-established kind of network of beehives.
Sure. And just like the solar fences, they require a lot of community maintenance as well. So that makes sense. More questions. Can you talk about examples of alternative livelihood projects that you have been a part of or that you know about in Nepal?
Okay. So there are various forms of alternative livelihood supports. Okay. So one of the form is like providing direct support to the needy household. For example, you provide some logistics, I mean some equipment, let's say if you are supporting a vegetable farming project, you will be like providing some good seeds or equipments that will help you, do vegetable farming. But there is another form in which we are like providing a kind of seed money to the community. Okay, so community will have a kind of committee. They will have a committee. In that committee, there will be like people from certain area who are facing conflict with elephant or other animals. Okay, so we will be providing them some form of seed money, and that money will be their property. So they will operate the money in a very low cost, low interest rate. They will provide soft loan to the community members in a very low interest rate. So once they get that money, so they will operate their own business. So that business will be site specific and again case specific. So there is not always a kind of specific project, but in a small scale, many things are going on. For example, commercial vegetable farming is there, commercial goat farming is there, and some people are working with this lemon farming. For example, lemon is not palatable to the wild elephants, so it is helping in both ways. So elephants are not entering to the community because of that lemon, and if you go to the market, so you can sell your lemons in very high price. So in other areas, we have been also trying for this mentha, mentha, chamomile. So these are aromatic plants which are not palatable to the elephants. So we have tried this kind of crops also. So the one of the problem is like, so the entire value chain is not not approachable by the community. So community do not have access to the entire value chain. For example, the outside traders, they will come to your place to buy let's say the byproduct of mentha or chamomile. So if they give you good price, you will be happy. So in the next year, if they will not give you the good price, so you will stop farming these kind of crops. So there are some issues, but we have tried different kind of alternative livelihood supports. So another major support is in the form of ecotourism. So we have been supporting this homestay tourism. It's actually a homestay tourism is a form of hospitality tourism, which is being operated by small group of farmers, or let's say of village, all layman villager, let's say a community which is having conflict, and the community members do not have that kind of resources to make a huge investment and operate big hotels and lodge, but they can operate, I mean, a certain capacity to accommodate some of the visitors, and in return they will have some income. So these kind of things are also happening. We have nature guides, we have some hospitality providers who have been making some good income, and helping elephant conservation. Yeah,
That's great. And it's good to see that all the alternative livelihood options aren't just one thing. So it's whatever works for the people in each region. And that kind of dovetails with another question. Someone's asking, when there is damage to, say, crops or buildings, or even people getting injured because of elephants, do the governments provide any compensation to the people? Are there schemes like that?
yes, government of Nepal has a very good scheme on compensation. Okay, so we have a recent amendment on this compensation scheme as well. So whenever there is a kind of human death, so the compensation is about 1 lakh Nepalese rupees, is about 1,000 about 10,000 sorry 100,000 rupees. Okay, so there are also a scheme for injuries, for crop damage, for livestock depredation, for other forms of conflict, and not only elephant. So these compensation schemes are for other animals as well. Actually, 16 different animals are are in this scheme, and if you have conflict with these wildlife, you will get the compensation. Yes.
Okay, well, that's good to know. And then that sort of connects with another question. People are wanting to know, what kind of strategies, what do you do to help change people's attitudes in the communities around elephants and living near them? Because obviously, if terrible things have happened and they do need that government compensation, they're going to be less likely to think positively about elephants, right?
Yes, that's true. So that's true. So that's why we have initiated this behavioral change campaign. So in this campaign, so basically what is happening is like, so elephants are not not killing you, entering your home, let's say entering your house. So most of our daily activities, for example, you are going to the forest to collect the forest products, okay? So you are going to the forest to rear your cattle. So during that time, so most of the conflicts happen, and for example, so uh, if you are like misbehaving some animals, so during that time you are getting this kind of conflict. So most of the conflicts are related to human behavior. So that's why if you are able to change the behavior of the community to behavior of the people, so it will definitely help minimize conflict. So if you stop traveling in the nearby forest area during night, alone, if you are alone, if you are not leaving your children alone in these areas, so if you are not going to the forest alone, and if you are not doing that kind of activity which may create trouble, so it will help save your life. Damage of property, damage of crops in another form of conflict. But if there is human harassment, cases of human harassment, if there is human death, so there will be a real negative sentiment of the community. So we are trying to minimize human injuries and death. That's our first priority, and then working on other forms of conflict. So in this way, if you are able to change the behavior of the community, if you are make them self responsible, responsible about themselves and responsible about elephants, so that will definitely help minimize the conflict. So in this way we are trying to do this. And another strategy is like providing them some sort of support, that may be logistic support, that may be support for livelihood, that may be support in other forms, that may be developing their leadership, developing their capacity. So if you can do that, so it will definitely help communities to maintain coexistence. Yes.
Absolutely. And it seems like education is a big part of that. Do you
Yes.
have people are asking if you have programs for grade school age children to educate them about conservation and elephants?
Yes. So we have two different kind of programs. So one is like through all these projects, we are like going to those areas and providing these kind of trainings, workshops, or let's say site specific these kind of programs, and some mass awareness generation activities as well, through radio programs, through television programs, through these signboards, for example, brochures kind of things. So another is kind of organized program. So every local municipality in Nepal are now authorized to prepare their own local syllabus. So based on the local situation. So for example, so in the elephant landscape, so local municipality has that you know uh, um, kind of what is the authority to prepare that kind of syllabus and deliver them for the community schools. So we have a very good program on environmental conservation. So most of the schools in buffer zone areas of certain parks, so they have these kind of programs for like some grades in your school. For example, for grade 5, 6, 7, or 8, you have a kind of specific program on conflict or environmental conservation or tourism or kind of things. Yeah, there is.
Excellent. Building conservationists from the ground up. That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Have another person asking about the cultural or religious importance of elephants in Nepal. So maybe you can tell us, or do the Nepali people have a history of revering elephants, things like that?
Yes, definitely. So uh, Lord Ganesha, maybe you have heard about Lord Ganesha. So
Uh-huh.
in our Hindu religion, so Lord Ganesha has a very unique position. So it is considered as uh, I mean as Lord Ganesha, basically Lord Ganesha. And in our different historical books, religious books. So there are a number of stories on elephants being used in wars, being used in different traditions, cultures, different religious activities. So and nowadays also, so they have been really helping communities in different aspects. For example, so they are the warriors of the jungles. So even if you don't have elephant, you cannot work work in our landscape. For example, it's a very fertile land, fertile one. The Indo-Gangetic Plain is a very fertile landscape, and there, as a conservationist, for example, for us as well, if we don't have the elephant, we cannot work on emergencies. For example, if you have rescue a tiger, if you don't have elephants, you cannot do that. So that's kind of thing, you know. So most of our what do you say, um, these religious activities, our, you know, these historical things, they are related to the elephants. So elephant is considered as a most sacred animal in Nepal. Yeah.
That's great. And it sounds like, you know, the work you're doing not only preserves that sacred animal for the Nepali people, but also helps the environment, helps the
Yes.
communities. So
Yeah,
I
definitely.
think IEF is very, very proud to support this kind of work and proud to share your work with everyone here. What other species benefit through the work that you do? Are there other endangered species that kind of share habitat with elephants?
Yes. We have Royal Bengal tiger. So we have about 40 in number. Uh, so that's one of the biggest population of Royal Bengal tiger in Nepal. We have one horned rhino, the greater one horned rhinoceros. So we have about 20 in numbers. Then we have also these small creatures as well. For example, the Bengal florican. So that's basically a grassland dwelling species. We have this Barasinga 12 horned deer. So that's very unique to Suklapata National Park. We have some, you know, endangered bird species as well. I think all of these species have been benefited from this project because this conservation awareness generation activities. So we just didn't talk about elephants only. We talked about the importance of all these species. You know, importance about our ecosystem. You know, ecosystem services and kind of things. So that's why I think these all species are benefited from the project.
Absolutely. And the better you help habitat, the better you're going to help all the species.
Yes.
And people are asking, is that an animal we're hearing in the background of your feed? Is there what's that kind of?
That's a kind of sound. I don't know what is coming
Oh.
here. Yeah.
No worries. All right. Well, we are coming up on an hour, so I think we are about to wrap up, but you answered everyone's questions and it was beautiful. And you really shared the reality of being on the ground, working with communities, helping both elephants and people in Nepal. Thank you so much for your time. I know it's late there, so we really appreciate it. Thank you for your excellent presentation and the wonderful slides. I'm going to turn it over to Julie real quick here.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much. What an incredible presentation. And the work that you're doing is just phenomenal. So thank you for all the great work. And thank you all for joining us live here today. And we did put a link in the chat if you'd like to support this incredible work that's happening. We'd love to have you make a small donation to help support the work. So again, thank you so much for joining us, and we will see you again next month